Welcome to my video on evaluating expressions for a variable using GEMDIS SOL Review. So before we can evaluate expressions for a variable, we need to review order of operations. So the first one that we have here, and we call it GEMDIS. Normally you're used to hearing PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication or division from left to right, and addition or subtraction. But now we are calling parentheses grouping symbols. So do whatever operations are inside the parentheses, brackets, fraction bar, absolute value, and square roots. So exponents, after we do grouping symbols, we do exponents from left to right, if there's more than one. And then we multiply or divide, start at the front, and multiply or divide from left to right. And then finally, we add or subtract, start at the front, and add or subtract from left to right. Now, be careful, watch out. You want to remember to multiply or divide and add or subtract from, you guessed it, left to right. So there's a heavy emphasis on multiply or divide from left to right and add or subtract from left to right. Now, substitution property is used when you're evaluating for a variable. And it says if A equals B, then B can be substituted for A in any expression, equation, or inequality. And here are the steps to evaluating expressions for given replacement values of the variable. It says substitute each replacement value for the given variable. So for example, if A equals 2, I'm going to take out all the A's and put the number 2. Remember that the number in front of letter means to multiply. Remember that the number in front of parentheses also means to multiply. And then finally, you're going to evaluate the expression using GEMDIS or order of operations. And we use the acronym GEMDIS to help us remember the order of operations. So go ahead and turn the page, and now let's look at some examples. So number 1 says if x equals -3, what is the value of -4x plus 10x divided by 5 plus 7? Now remember to write small when we do these because we don't have a whole lot of room and there will be several steps for each one. So I know that x equals -3, so I'm going to go through and take out all the x's and replace it with -3. So let's write down -4 times -3 plus 10 times -3. And we're going to divide 10 times -3 by 5. And then finally, plus 7. So now we're going to go through and use our GEMDIS. So we're going to look for grouping. And I see a grouping here. I see a fraction bar. And when I see a fraction bar, I always do what's on top first. So we're going to go ahead and circle 10 times -3. And what is 10 times -3? It is -30. So I'm going to bring down everything else. And then I'm going to replace 10 times -3 with -30. And I'm going to still divide that by 5 plus 7. Now, I still haven't taken care of the fraction bars, so I need to go ahead and continue to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and circle this. And -30 divided by 5 is -6. And then I'm going to bring everything else down. -4 times -3 plus -6 plus 7. So now I've taken care of all my grouping symbols. Now I'm going to look for exponents, and I don't see any. So now I'm going to look for multiplication or division from left to right, and I'm going to start right here. So we're going to go ahead and underline this step. I was circling the other steps because they were fraction bars. So -4 times -3 is +12. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring down the plus -6 and the +7. And now I've taken care of all the multiplication and division. So now I'm going to add or subtract from left to right. And I'm going to do 12 plus -6, of course, is +6. Bring down the +7. And 6 plus 7 finally is 13. And I'm going to go ahead and circle my final answer. Okay, let's look at example number 2. It says if A equals 3, B equals 4, and C equals -5, what is the value of 4B plus parentheses 4 minus 3B, close parentheses, all divided by -5 minus A? So the first thing I'm going to do is replace all the letters with the correct numbers. So I'm going to rewrite this as, and I'm going to call this the top here. We're going to do the top first, and then we're going to go ahead and do the bottom. So the top says 4 times 4, because B equals 4, plus 4, and I need to put that in parentheses, minus 3 times 4, because number in front of letter means to multiply, close the parentheses. And now I'm going to go ahead and do order of operations. So I'm going to take care of grouping first, so I'm going to look right here, and I see in the parentheses we have subtraction and multiplication, so I'm going to do the subtraction first, and 3 times 4 is 12, and I'm going to bring down the 4 minus, and remember to still put the parentheses, and bring down the 4 times 4 plus. And now I still have the parentheses, so I still need to do 4 minus 12 next. So 4 minus 12 is -8. Now the parentheses is gone because I'm down to one number, and bring down the 4 times 4 plus -8. Now I'm looking for exponents. I don't see any, so multiplication or division from left to right. So I'm going to do the 4 times 4, which is 16, plus -8. And now I'm down to one step, so I'm going to do 16 plus -8, which is +8. So the top is +8. Now I'm going to go ahead and focus on the bottom here. And I'm going to call this the bottom. And we only have one step here, -5 minus 3. And -5 minus 3 is -8 because of KCC. Add -3. And we get -8 on the bottom, and 8 divided by -8 is -1. Okay, let's move on to example number 3. And just remember, whenever you have a fraction, you do the top first, and then, of course, do the bottom and then divide them for your last step. So number 3 says if A equals -2, B equals 3, and C equals -1, what is the value of -2A minus B, parentheses, 3 times C plus B to the third power, close parentheses. And remember, letter in front of parentheses means to multiply. So I got to make sure once I do the parentheses that I multiply by B. So let's substitute in here. So we are going to start out with -2 times -2, because number in front of letter means to multiply, minus 3, parentheses, 3 times -1, plus 3 to the third power. Okay, so order of operations tells us gem does, so we're going to do the grouping first, and we see inside the parentheses, we see exponents, so that's the very first step I'm going to do. So 3 to the third power, remember that means 3 times 3 times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27. Now I'm going to bring down the rest of what's in the parentheses, so 3 times -1 plus 27, and then of course I'm going to bring down the rest of the problem. Now, my parentheses is still there, so after exponents, I look for multiplication or division from left to right, so 3 times -1 is -3, and I still have my parentheses, plus 27, because I'm not down to one number yet. So bring down the rest of the problem. And when you're doing order of operations, it's very important that you clearly write out the problem and make sure you bring down the numbers that you haven't used yet. Now, inside the parentheses, I still have -3 plus 27, and -3 plus 27 is 24. Now the parentheses is gone because I'm down to one number, and number in front of parentheses means to multiply. So I'm going to change the parentheses to a dot for multiplication, bring down the -2 times -2 minus. Now, grouping and exponents are all gone, so now multiplication or division from left to right. And we have -2 times -2 is +4. And now we're going to bring down the -3 times 24. And I still have some multiplication left, so I need to do that from left to right. So 3 times 24 is 72. Bring down the 4 and the minus, and my last step is to do 4 minus 72, which is -68. Okay, and I'm sure you can hear the rain pounding in the background. Sorry about that, but I'm recording this video in a rainstorm. So now, if A equals -3 and B equals 2, what is the value of b to the 4th power plus absolute value of 2b minus a? And then finally, we subtract the square root of 49. So we have to remember that there's an absolute value symbol around 2b minus a. And remember, absolute value is the distance from 0. And distance is always positive. So we're going to replace all the variables with the letter, or all the variables with the number. So b to the 4th power is going to be 2 to the 4th power plus absolute value, 2 times 2, because number in front of letter means to multiply, minus -3. Close your absolute value minus the square root of 49. Okay. So remember, absolute value and square root are grouping symbols, so we're going to go from left to right. So we're going to take care of the absolute value first. So inside I see 2 times 2, which is 4. So we're going to write 4 minus -3. We have to put the absolute value symbol back, and 2 to the 4th power plus, and then minus the square root of, 49. Okay, we're still not done with the absolute value here. So we have to do 4 minus -3. And 4 minus -3, KCC says that that's 7. And the absolute value symbol is not gone until I actually take the absolute value of it. So now, finally, I'm going to take the absolute value of 7, which is +7. Now I get rid of the absolute value symbol. So that's the biggest mistake that people make when they're dealing with the absolute value. Okay, and make sure your exponent here looks like 2 to the 4th. Let me see if I can fix that. Mine did not look like 2 to the 4th power. Okay, there we go. Now, we still have a grouping symbol, and that is the square root of 49. And the square root of 49 is 7, because 7 times 7 is 49. So bring down 2 to the 4th power plus 7 minus 7. Now all our grouping symbols are gone, so now I look for exponents, and I see 2 to the 4th power. So remember that means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Or, of course, I could use my calculator if you're using the TI-30, 2yx4 can be used to find 2 to the 4th power. So it is, in fact, 16 plus 7 minus 7. And now I don't see any multiplication or division from left to right, so now I'm going to add or subtract from left to right. 16 plus 7 is 23. Bring down the minus 7. And finally, 23 minus 7 is 16. Okay, that concludes our Evaluate for a Variable SOL review using GEMDIS. I hope you have a great day.